Hey, y'all. Hey, welcome to this week's episode of our Hey, y'all. Hey morning show. My name is Alicia with Country Mama Musings. We're so glad you're here.
And I'm Monica with Bland's Promised Land Ranch.
Good morning, everyone. It's Casey from Ormsby Farm, and y'all, welcome to Hey Y'all Hey Morning Show. Before we started this episode that I know that we've all been looking forward to, talking about homeschooling, I wanted to kind of shout out one of our hosts. It was our girl Monica's birthday yesterday, so happy
Whoop,
birthday,
whoop.
Miss Bland. Whoop, whoop.
Thank you very much. It was definitely an interesting day here on the farm. Nothing goes as planned. So I was greeted bright and early yesterday morning with one of our cattle that was standing in the road talking to me. And I was like, "Good morning. Why are you in the road?"
I think it was just wishing you a happy birthday. I
That's
think
what
that's
I'm
what it
thinking.
was.
That's what I'm thinking. Penny decided she was going to come wish me her happy birthday wishes. And let me tell you, I was not happy, but it was fine because I was glad that she is a very, very good cow and she will go right back where she belongs. So it was okay. It was okay in the end.
Did she say, hey, y'all, hey, happy Moo Day?
She should have, is what she should have done. Well, you know what though? It's fun because when, it's a fun day. Birthdays are always great. My kids and my family make me feel very special. But with that cow being out, I actually got to learn some new things, which was really cool because I could talk about it this morning because here we are talking about our podcast episode yesterday, which was all about, homeschool, homestead learning, homeschool, public school, all the different ways that are not only our kids, but we can learn. And so that was what we talked about yesterday on our podcast. If you haven't checked it out, definitely go and check out all the different ways you can listen to our podcast. You can listen to it on YouTube or on Apple Podcasts. It's a great episode. And I feel like we really got into it when we talked about a lot of different things. But yesterday I learned how to use what is it? Barbed wire stretchers. It doesn't stretch it, but it does stretch it. And you clip it on and you pull it in. So I had to learn a new task, a new tool yesterday that I never learned before. So there you go. Always learning on the homestead.
Never pass up an opportunity to learn, ever.
No, never. So Casey, what did you think about our episode from yesterday? I mean, I thought we touched on a lot of really great things.
We did.
From homeschooling to public schooling, charter schooling. But yeah, I mean, what did you think? How do you think it went in the end?
Well, it's always we get the comments that it's a very controversial topic that we talk about, because everybody has their opinions, and we're going to get into that later on in this episode about opinions. But one thing that we didn't touch on a lot that I wanted to kind of bring up here on the morning show was we didn't talk a lot about, online schooling. And I think a lot of people, when they think online schooling, they think homeschooling, which really is incorrect because there's different types of online schooling. And I think one of the biggest questions that a lot of people ask when they're going into homesteading classroom, quote unquote, finding a good program or course that's good for your children is what they teach. And there's a great website that I have learned about called k12.com. And it is online schooling, and you can go there and you can kind of find and sift between different homeschooling programs, online public school programs, and online private school programs. And it details all the coursework for you. It does same thing for budget, what your budget is. And I just thought that was something that we kind of needed to push on this episode because we didn't talk a lot about online schooling on the episode. Monica, Alicia, what is y'all's thoughts on that? Monica?
I mean, I don't know that much about K-12 in particular. I do use part online and part school book, if you will, if you want to call it school books. But we do a little bit of both when it comes to online schooling, but it's definitely not K-12. It's not monitored by the state. Every state is so different for the way you can school your kids. So it's one thing that I don't really know that we touched on as much, but make sure that if you are wanting to homeschool or wanting to make decisions for your child's education, make sure you check with the state because, of course, we can't make decisions about our own children's education without checking with the state first. But it's important to know what the rules are because we do follow state rules. And, for us, we do online education but it's controlled. It's Christian education. It's what I choose. It's the lessons that I can see ahead of time. I know exactly what's going into them. So I think that's important to make sure we touch on too, that you can do homeschooling online and you can do the K-12, but you can definitely do the, Christian education or do the other methods. I don't know that much about the K-12, but I think overall our topics were great. I think we really touched on a lot of really great stuff. And I was really happy to do that particular episode because, it has a lot to do with what I'm dealing with now on the homestead. School right now, I have 5 of my kids in school, and it's a big part of our life here. So, Alicia.
Yeah, I'm going to apologize in advance because we didn't get to talk about a lot of the different topics because I was so passionate about charter schools. I kind of ran with it when we first started, and I just like verbally vomited all over everybody about my love of charter schools. So apologies that we didn't get to hit some of the other topics, but keep in mind that a lot of I think it's what's really nice is you can mesh and blend so many options now. You can have homeschooling, charter schooling, academy settings, your traditional setting in a regular traditional K through 12 setting. You can have online on all of that, or you can just do a strictly online setting like what Katie or Casey has suggested here. There's just a lot of different we have a lot of options, and I think that's what our podcast was about, is just getting everybody to open up and think outside the box and think about the options that you have available for schooling your children. Monica is 100% correct on what you need to do when you consider putting your children into any of these options. Make sure that you as a parent are protected and that you're doing exactly everything you need to do for your children's best interest. For instance, I know back when I homeschooled, you had to have an umbrella. You had to file with the state. Monica is in a co-op. They've got all of their ducks in a row. They're protected. If you want your children to go on to university and you're doing like a charter school setting that may be a blended program with a homeschool setting as well, make sure they're accredited. Make sure they're accredited like a WASC accreditation, which is the Western Accreditation of Colleges, of schools and colleges. And that way your high school credits can transfer, not necessarily transfer, but you've done everything that you can do to get your children into a college or university without them saying, I don't know, your AP classes don't count. So you have to make sure that you have everything lined up for your student. And there's always wiggle room somewhere. There's a way to make it work. So that's something to think about, because there's so many great opportunities. And don't forget that while your children are learning, you're learning right alongside with them too. Never pass up an opportunity to learn. That's something that myself and the co-hosts were discussing earlier before we even came on the air this morning, is you never pass up an opportunity to learn. So, we're going to be talking about some of the posts that we've had on our Facebook group this last week. So it is time for subscriber comment call out. So Casey, I think, is going to start.
Okay, real quick. I love this. I love that you did the little because I was totally thinking in my mind, we've got to have like some sort of like subscriber comment call out, like something to highlight that, like some kind of like echo. We need some sort of like really like awesome intro for that. So it's like, whoa, I don't know. I keep thinking of Casey's like pew 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 something.
Oh my goodness.
I know I'm bringing it back, Casey, but there's something. We need something for this. But okay, Casey, start off with your first time gardener. I love this.
Yeah, I really did love this post, and that's why I wanted to kind of highlight it. And it is Stacy Allen, and she posted, first time gardener, my cucumber plants are dying and I don't know why. Maybe the soil is a lot of clay. Please help or give me ideas if there is any way to save. If not, what to do differently next time. So let me just say, Stacy, jokingly, me and Alicia, cucumbers are triggering for us, because we have been through cucumber Mageddon
Yes.
a couple years in a row. But I would like to say that I pretty much mastered my cucumbers. And I want to say, Stacy, they don't look bad. Your cucumbers are one of those plants that it will grow and it will harvest for probably about 4 weeks. 4 weeks, so just a month. out of your growing season, and then it will start turning brown and dying back. You did nothing wrong. They're just not one of those plants like a tomato or like a pepper that you can harvest on for multiple months through your growing season. I don't know. It didn't say where she was from. But no, there's nothing wrong with your plant. It does that. When it's time to go, the cucumber plants are like, peace, Stacy. It's been real. We'll see you next year. But yes, this looks good to me. I mean, Alicia, Monica, did y'all want to add anything into that?
Well, I noticed she still has some flowering going on, so it's not past its entire growing season yet. But we are promoting Kelzon, which is a wonderful fertilizer, calcium fertilizer that you can add to your soil. Um, I don't know. I know I kind of glanced at this, and like you said, cucumbers are triggering for me. She's got some yellowing going on there. I don't know if it has anything to do with maybe some heat or some watering issues. She might want to amend her soil a little bit. But, like Casey said, it's some years it's going to be hit and miss. I know where I live, I'm in 5B. It is really hit and miss this year with a lot of people with cucumbers. There's something off with the cucumbers this year. I'm not sure what it is. But check your watering, make sure that your leaves aren't getting wet when you're watering, check your soil, and her cucumbers do look happy on the top. It's down towards the bottom. And you're right, the soil looks a little dense. That's why I say maybe amend it a little bit. Maybe get in there with just a little hand rake, the little hand cultivator, mix things up a little bit, amend that soil a little bit. They might be a little happier. But you're doing great. And the great thing about homesteading and this journey that we're all on, this is why we have this commonality, is we're learning as we go, which is so great about our topic today. You're going to learn a lot from this first season with your cucumbers, and you're going to make changes next year, and maybe they'll be for the better. Maybe you'll say, "Uh-oh, can't do that again." But it's all about learning. So just keep going. Listen to what your comments are on your post there. If you've got some good tips, take those to heart and see what you can do, and hopefully you'll have something that feels a little better in your heart next season. Guys?
Yeah, I was going to agree with that. I was going to piggyback on what you were saying. One thing that we want to promote in this group is helping others and being kind to others, especially first-time gardeners. We all started as first-time gardeners. So I think the ones that act too high and mighty or think that they know everything because they've been doing it for 4 years, remember that you were once that first-time gardener. And I don't know if you had somebody that helped you, but I know that I did. And so if I can give back any knowledge, I like to do that. But if I don't have the knowledge, I try to keep to myself and not put in my opinion. And again, we're going to talk about this more on different one of our posts. But Monica, what did you think about the cucumber post?
I don't know. My cucumbers are always looking pretty shady after the first the first week or so. Everybody looks healthy. It all looks great. I started harvesting everything, and all of a sudden it gets warm. And the minute it gets really warm here, the sun comes out for more than 3 days, and it stops raining. I mean, if it doesn't rain in 4 days, my cucumbers are usually we're dying. And so they just start melting like the witch in Wizard of Oz. And so, I mean, and I water my plants. It's just Texas is really harsh. So I feel like a lot of things look like that right away. But, honestly, they live a lot longer than they look rough. But I'm not ready to pull anything out until I know it's done. So if you see flowers, if you're looking at it and the stems aren't looking rough, sometimes those leaves can just look like they've been through the ringer. But in the end, you're still getting cucumbers, and that's what matters. So I guess I'm just easy to please. I'm like, look, y'all can look like you just woke up, but you need to be making sure you're still putting cucumbers out for me. Okay. I got pickles to make. So, I mean, I don't know. I guess I'm not worried about the prettiness as much.
And when I see a yellow leaf, I'll pick it. I take it off because your plant is still trying to put a little bit of energy towards that leaf, and you don't want that energy going there. You want the energy going somewhere else.
Right.
So if I see something that's looking a little iffy, it's like, pinch, off you go, because I want all of the energy and the nutrients to go towards my cucumbers, not towards trying to save this one little leaf. But having said that, make sure that, again, your soil is amended. Make sure maybe a little bit of some top mulch on top to keep things from getting too dry. That's going
Yeah.
to feed your soil as well. There's lots of things you can do. But you're going to do better next year. And that's the important thing, is remember, your first year is always kind of hit and miss. You learn what works, you learn what doesn't, and you keep growing. And that's the important part.
Well, Alicia, you said something about the pitching off of the leaf, and that's true for any of the plants. Like if it's looking at a little yucky or looking a little tired or a little worn out,
Like me.
I was about to say like how I look right now this past weekend, pinch it off, because that plant is putting nutrients to that leaf or that stem or whatever it is that it's giving that nutrients to, that it could be giving to the other parts of the plants. So don't just let it, hang out like a old dead girl on the plant. Pull it off, it'd be okay. It's gonna be fine.
Because you're not going to save that leaf. That leaf's not going to rejuvenate and come back.
Yeah.
So your plant may think it's going to. That's why it's going to try to put some energy towards it.
Right.
But it's best to just go ahead, nip it in the bud, put your energy somewhere else.
Well, I think based on that too, it's one of those things that we can throw it to Kelzyme, because in all honesty, when it comes to plants trying to take in that soil moisture, trying to really get that uptake of that liquid, that, the water that they're trying to take in and feed the rest of the plant, you're going to want to use Kelzyme, because that's such a great way to give your plants what it needs to continue to grow, especially when they look a little stressed. With gardening season in full bloom, Kelzyme certified organic products are just what your garden needs.
From fertilizing your orchards to feeding your soil, Kelzyme's calcium-based fertilizer gives your plants the essential minerals they need to thrive.
Applying Kelzyme to agricultural soils and waters has been proven to increase plant and crop yields while making vegetables and grains healthier and more nutritious.
In addition, Kelzyme can help restore the nutrient balance in animals when they're fed plants grown using Kelzyme in both soil and water.
To check out all of Kelzyme's organic products, visit kelzyme.com and use our promo code HeyBale for 10% off of your purchase.
Okay, so I think that we have another comment call out from one of the beautiful people over in Facebook land. There you go. Something, right? Over in our beginners homesteading guide is where we're pulling all these comments from. So if you're over on YouTube and you don't see these, it's because you're not in our beginners homesteading guide. And if you want to join, come on over to Facebook and join it. We would love to have you. It is definitely for beginners, but there are a lot of experienced homesteaders in there that are helping out these beginners. And I absolutely love all the interaction we're having too. So this one in particular is a gentleman by the name of Kevin Heist. And I think I'm saying his name right. But he built his first quail pen, and I thought it was so cool because he put a picture of it. I love photos. That is how I learn. I love seeing all the photos, the things that he's done. And I just think it's amazing that he shared that with us. The quail look amazing in there. The pen itself looks like a standard quail pen. I thought it was really awesome. And I mean, Kevin, we wish you the best of luck with that. And with all of your quail, we hope that you do exactly what you need to be done with them. And I just thought it was really cool because anytime you make an accomplishment, you do something like this, when you build something special or you have a new project on your homestead, we encourage you to share it here in this beginner's homesteading guide, because just by sharing this picture, a few of these photos of the quail and the design and the idea of what he did, there are so many people that can glean information off of this. And I think it's awesome when you share these projects, because it can encourage someone that maybe isn't ready to jump into something. Maybe it's going to give them that little push to say, you know what, I can do that. Or I've seen that before. I can build something like that. Or, oh, my friend has one of those. That's what it's for. You know what? I'm going to get some quail. I want to try that. So that your picture, your post may just spark a great idea, a great plan for someone out there that wants to do something. So I thought it was really great. And Kevin, we appreciate you sharing that. And I think it's awesome. So do you guys have anything you want to add to that photo?
I like that he built it at a really nice height so he can get in there, take care of his birds, water, feed, tend to them. It's at a perfect height. I like that the bottom is open so that all the waste can just fall through. I don't know much about quail. I've not raised quail, but I imagine he's going to have some really great compost later to add to his gardens. I'm not sure if quail are hot with nitrogen with their waste, but that's a really nice quail pen. And like you said, it's going to encourage others to say, maybe this is something I need to look into. So I think it's a really great post. And it just shows that if you put your mind to it, you can put things together like that. And like you said, be an inspiration to others, because I think it was really great.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I don't really know too much about quail, but I loved looking at those pictures. I mean, it was beautifully done, and it does kind of give me the itch to try quail out. I know that some of my hosts and some of my other homesteading friends have been kind of nudging me that direction. So it definitely inspired me a little bit to try and see and be like, why not? Let me try it out.
My sister has encouraged me to get quail because she wants to go halves and halves with me. She wants half the quail down at her place. She's about 2 hours away, but she can only get, I think her minimum order would be 30. And so she doesn't want 30. And I said, what am I going to do with quail? Because your main focus for the quail is, okay, quail eggs, but your main purpose is they're going to be a meat bird that has a high turnover rate. Well,
Yeah.
I don't process my birds, so I just be sitting here with a bunch of quail.
Yeah,
So
and they
I
would
have
they
to
would
know.
make baby quail, so you'd have a lot
Right.
more
I'd have
quail.
a lot of quail. So, for her, this would be a great thing for her to look at and say, here's a really great little setup. So she could have the quail at her farm, or not farm. She's actually moved into a little town, but they're quiet. I don't think they make any noise. And they look pretty clean. So I think that's something that she could look into. And that post would be a really nice thing for her to follow up on. I'll make sure that she sees that so that she can see that that's something maybe she can build on the side of her home.
Yeah, it's a great idea. I really do like quail. We've had quail, and then we not have quail now, but I just couldn't keep my quail alive. They didn't like transporting. They didn't like being transported here, and so they decided they weren't going to lay eggs. And I was like, well, if y'all aren't going to lay eggs, then we're not going to have you. Because I wanted the eggs as well. I wanted the eggs and I wanted the meat. So it was an unfortunate turn of events for those quail. However, that's a really well put together quail pen. And like Carmen said over on YouTube, absolutely love the woodwork. It's really nice to see that. It is a much needed craft. It is beautiful. And he did a really
Absolutely. Absolutely. And with our whole topic being about learning and schooling, I mean, seeing those type of things can encourage someone to pick up that trade, which I truly feel is a lost trade that needs to be reborn.
Safety first. Safety first when you're learning.
Mm-hmm. But
And
for sure, that's
measure twice, cut once.
Oh, what is this measuring of which you speak of? I never do. I just go full force in. That's probably why my gate in my chicken coop is kind of a little lean-to more than a straight gate.
Well,
yeah, that's why I'm not allowed to build.
I guarantee you that Kevin did a lot of good measuring when he was putting that one together. That looked
absolutely,
really good.
Absolutely. All righty, so I am pulling up now our next kind of Alicia. You want to make our sound effect, please?
Do, 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 do.
I love it.
Thank you so much, Alicia. That was just
so many people are going to find that irritating.
We are so professional. We are so professional.
And this next one is from Amanda Watson. I think, Monica, you wanted to take this one too.
Yeah, so I saw this from Amanda, but I think we actually touched on it with a couple other people too. So Amanda Watson, you posted, can anyone tell me what this is? I grew up at my parents' house. We aren't sure what they planted. Well, sometimes we get seed mix-ups. There are so many times where we definitely get seeds that aren't what we thought we planted. And people always want to suppose or, say, oh, well, this is what it is. They got a lot of comments. She got a lot of comments on this post. And the big comment was, it is an Armenian cucumber. And another comment was, no, it is a loofah. And so between a loofah and an Armenian cucumber, I can tell you I've never grown loofah. I've seen loofah, but I have grown Armenian cucumber. And that very much is an Armenian cucumber. Now, maybe if I grew loofah, I could I could say, oh my gosh, I've grown loofah, I've grown Armenian cucumber. That's definitely a loofah. I mean, I don't know, but I can tell you that someone that has grown both, and she is over in YouTube right now, and that's Carmen over Jesus Loving Homesteader. So she would be one that could give her expert opinion because she has grown both. I think the point in all of it, there you go, right there, an overgrown Armenian. And that's
I
what
was
I
just
thought.
about to say, let's ask Carmen, because Carmen
Yes.
does know, but that's definitely an Armenian cucumber.
Yes. And
I
I
think
was
we
pretty
all looked at it.
confident. And I think that the point was too, is that I was pretty confident it was Armenian cucumber as well. And I was going to suggest taking a chunk of that flesh and trying it out, because you'll know when you taste it as well. Because I believe they would taste differently, even if, because you can eat the loofah before they dry out and everything. But I feel like you would know as well with some taste. But when it comes down to it, if you don't grow both, then you can't say definitively whether it is one or the other. You can only suppose, because you only know what you've grown from your experience. So there was a lot of commenters that was like, 100% loofah, 100%. And I'm like, guys, if you haven't grown both, then how do you know? So I think that's important to know, that if you're going to give your opinion, which is amazing, and I know when we value all the opinions, we really want everybody to give their opinions. Sometimes if you don't know, just don't say anything. But if you have experience with one or the other, maybe that's where you reach out and say, you know what? I've grown Armenian and that looks just like it. I am not positive, but I am pretty sure that that might be what it is. And that's where I would have given my opinion that way. And I would have said, I've grown Armenian. I've grown them way too big before. That looks like exactly what I've grown. So that way people understand that I've not gotten to that point where I've grown both. But like Carmen said, if a loofah got that big, it would be a sponge already. The skin would be paper thin too if the loofah was this big. So right there, someone that has experience with both of those particular plants, and the fruit off of both of those plants, I think that's awesome to find someone that's grown both, so they can give a full perspective, if you will.
Absolutely. And I think you said it best. I mean, we love that y'all give your thoughts and opinions in the comments, but make sure that we're giving the correct information. Again, as Monica said, if you didn't truly know, you could say something that, I've grown this, it looks like this, but I'm not completely sure. Because remember, a lot of these people that are posting these posts are truly looking for advice to use in the future. And if we give them wrong information, then the wrong information is going to continue wronging. But
This makes a lot of sense to me. I'm really glad we're discussing this, because the light bulb has gone off, because this explains why shower time is not going well for me. I've been scrubbing my back with an Armenian cucumber. So because somebody told me it was a loofah, and it just hasn't felt right. So now I know the Armenian cucumber does not go in the shower.
Filter your information better than what you're doing.
Yes.
Right. Well, at least you smelled nice and cucumbery, like a good old snake.
Right?
That's like a nice melony smell too. It has a really good Armenian cucumbers. I will say, even though they're overgrown like that, they still taste amazing. My family, we grew them last year or 2 years ago, and we were finding these giant cucumbers, and Eric's like, oh my gosh, she's going to be so bitter. And we cut into one just because I felt so guilty throwing it out. I'm like, somebody needs to try this, even though it's literally the size of my arm. And we tried it, and it was still good. And I was thoroughly amazed, and I was so impressed. And I'm like, I will grow these forever. And it was like finding something amazing.
Somebody who hasn't grown Armenian cucumbers, my hand goes up in the air. You said they have a little bit of a melony taste to them?
Yes.
Yeah. They're not like a straight, you're not pickling them. Okay. How about that? And you're not going to be trying to find pickly recipes for them. You're going to be like, daggone, this is really good. I'm just going to eat it. You're just going to eat it. It's very good.
I dehydrate them too. And they have if you cut them thin, like I did on my Instagram page, where you turn them into kind of like chips. But if you dehydrate the Armenian thin sliced, they still kind of keep that melony taste as chips, and they're really good.
Yum. That sounds intriguing. I might have to try that next year.
Yeah, I will say it's a very forgiving plant as well. So if you're like me and you just have a few days where you're like couch bound and you don't feel like doing anything but just bare minimum watering them, because I feel like I get like that in the summertime where I get so overloaded. I'm like, I don't want to go out there and even look at my garden today. And there you go. That's why they're melony. And I knew that. I just was like not positive. So I didn't want to be like, they're actually melons. But I was like, don't say it until you verify, Monica. See, just like with this post, I didn't want to say it until I knew for sure. But yeah, the
Following
Armenian
your own
cucumbers,
suggestions. Look at that.
exactly. They are amazing because, and like I said, they're very forgiving because if you just don't feel like dealing with them, they grow big. And then you're like, oh no, they're huge. But it's okay because they still taste amazing. So yeah, if you forget about them or you all of a sudden find the giant one and you're, afraid you're gonna have to give it to the animals, do not despair. They are still good for you.
Still good. And really continuing on with the learning in the garden, and also continuing on with making sure that you do not post comments until you know 100%, or comment but say that you don't know 100% for sure, is our
Exactly.
next kind of post, which thank you, Alicia. And I'm glad that we do have Carmen in there, because I will say this is my first year growing polar bear pumpkins, which are a variety of white pumpkins that Lydia is talking about in her post. And there was a lot of, oh, that's a cucumber. No, it's a pumpkin. No, it's or not a cucumber, a zucchini. And I want to point out one thing, and I know that Carmen will have something in the comments, and I'll jump back there. But if you look at this right here, I'm trying to enlarge it. Come on, Facebook, work with me here. There we go. Oh, have you seen this leaf? This is definitely pumpkin leaf, and the veins, the silver kind of thing, is very much indication of the white pumpkins. It's how our polar bear pumpkin leaves look. So I will say that I don't know for 100%, but I'm pretty sure that this is not a zucchini. Now, Black Beauty zucchinis do get large, but not that large and not that fat. So I'm going to go back to, thank you, Carmen. You're awesome too. But do any of y'all, Alicia, Monica, want to add into this? Is it a zucchini? Is it a pumpkin kind of post?
Now, don't get me started on zucchinis. You know, I have like childhood trauma because of giant zucchinis. That's for
That's right.
another story. But I have to tell you, I threw a bunch of pumpkins that were donated from a local hardware store after Halloween last year. None of them germinated, none of the seeds. So I don't have a lot of experience with pumpkins. So this is in your guys' wheelhouse.
Well, so basically, listeners, what Alicia is saying is don't send her like zucchini bread or anything.
Oh, please don't.
It's triggering. And I wanted to say that Carmen did say that the white patches, and that was what I was talking about on the veins. It is a good indicator that it is one of the white pumpkins. Now, I don't know, Lydia, if you watch this back, you definitely leave a comment on what the variety is, if it is polar bear. But yes, I think I can, in my gut, say that it's definitely not a zucchini. And for those who have grown pumpkin before, they do start off green. So I know some people that may be new gardeners are like, Casey, that's a green pumpkin. The pumpkins are going to start off green, and then they will start turning into the color that they will be as adult pumpkins, whether it's orange, whether it's maroon, whether it's white, whether it's blue. I have some Jardale pumpkins in our pumpkin patch this year that turn into a really pretty navy blue pumpkin. So Lydia, great comment and post. Monica, did you want to add something to that?
No, I got nothing. Here's the thing. I am not good.
Grow really well with y'all. Okay.
I mean, look, I'm going to be real honest with you. I don't know the difference between a zucchini leaf and a pumpkin leaf. I don't know, but I don't care, to be honest with you. I don't care. I really don't. Like, I go out there and I'm like, you look like you're going to be growing great. And you know what? I love you, whatever you are. I am just the plant. I am accepting of all plants that grow in my garden that's going to provide good fruit for me to put into my family's bellies. So I honestly don't care if it's a zucchini. I don't care if it's a squash. If it turns color and then it looks like I can pick it,
See,
I'm
that's
all
why
over
we
it.
love Monica, because
Yeah.
Monica will tell you how it is. She don't care about the leaves. She
Like I
just wants
don't.
to know when it's ready to pick. Like the plant, tell her when it's ready to pick so she can do
Yes.
her thing and get
That's
back
it.
to
I just want to be able to like thump it or make sure the stem is dry or whatever. Like I care about those things. But people have been like, look at see, the stem is too big for a zucchini. Like, well, here's the thing. I
That's
don't
what I was
know.
thinking.
I would have seen that and been like, yo, I got a pumpkin growing in my garden, because that does not look like any of the zucchinis I've ever grown. And I've grown some wild looking zucchinis. I try different zucchinis because I think it's fun. But if it comes out of the zucchini bag and it ends up being a pumpkin or a squash or a such and such melon, I don't know. I won't know until it becomes a big enough fruit that finally I'm going to have to make a decision. Do I pick it or do I just leave it? So
Well,
that's the only thing I care about,
this
honestly.
this
Can we
explains
remind
a lot. This explains a lot.
it
This
does.
is not a loofah either, so shower time with a pumpkin doesn't work well for me either. I
You're
really
getting
need to
some
figure out
muscle
what my
now.
loofah. I know. I need to figure out what's going on with my loofah fixation
And let's just
and
say
get a
that,
real loofah.
pumpkin, zucchini, all of those are of the squash family. So, I mean, I could see where people may get a little bit confused. Um, but as Carmen said, that stem would be a big old zucchini. That'd be a lot of zucchini bread to send to Alicia, like a lot, if that was a
Oh
zucchini.
lordy, I'm telling you. Just so that our listeners know, that when I was growing up, the farm across the street from us, this little old farmer came over, and we were very, very poor growing up. And he said to my mother, "Hey, I've harvested all of the zucchini I want. If you want to come over and get some zucchini, you guys can have whatever zucchini you want." And he had let these zucchini go. And my mother did not pass up on an opportunity to feed her family because we were so poor. So she went over, not kidding, with a wheelbarrow and brought home zucchini that were, 2 foot long and as big around as my thigh. And if you've seen me, I got some thighs. And my mother made everything
Goodness.
she could make with those zucchini bread, zucchini pancake, zucchini soup. We ate zucchini for what seemed like an eternity in my childhood. And now I want nothing to do with zucchini because they trigger me. I can't help it. No more zucchini for me. End of story. Do, 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 do. On to our next subscriber call. You guys you see, it's time for a subscriber comment call out because nobody wants to hear any more about my childhood drama.
No, it's your turn to talk about the subscriber comment, the comment that you wanted to chat about, because we thought this was interesting
Good.
too.
Because we're talking about learning. This was our focus of our podcast this last week, and in our beginner's homesteading guide, we want everybody to share and learn. And I was happy that Chandler had posted this. He had gone out on a walk and he had taken some interesting pictures of some mushrooms, some fungi. And the first I approved the post because I think it's important, but I commented right away. Hey, everybody needs to make sure that they are 100% educated on how to identify different mushrooms and fungi because we don't want somebody coming into the group and say, "Oh, that's a such and such mushroom and you can eat it." And then somebody eats it and they get sick or heaven forbid, worse. So, I know that there are groups out there that will help you learn to identify. There are sometimes classes at the extension office or local that you can take so that you can actually go out and forage and learn about the different types of mushrooms, which ones are safe, which ones are not safe. But when we have posts like this to the group, it's very, very important. Okay, so we're questioning the difference between an Armenian cucumber and a loofah. That's all good and fine. When you've got somebody with a mushroom and you're questioning whether it's just something pretty to look at or something you just don't even want to touch, this is a different ball game. And so we're not throwing shade, we're not saying anything negative. We want people exactly, don't play with fungi, get it right or die.
She went
Absolutely.
right to it. She went
She did.
right to
She
it.
went right to it.
She just kind of did that mic
It's
drop right
true,
there. Boom.
because I know in other groups that I've been in, I've seen people say, "Oh gosh, that's good. Eat that." And I'm like, "Oh gosh, you're going to take the word of somebody you've never met over social media saying, "Yep, pan fry that, serve it up to your family. So don't do that. Look at this right here. 2 people died recently in the eastern states of Australia after eating some so-called edible mushrooms. So we want to encourage the members of the group to post these lovely little things while they're out hiking and foraging and learning. But please don't play around with the mushrooms. If you're going to see a post like this and you want to say great pics, that's wonderful. Please don't encourage anybody to eat anything. We want anybody that is going to delve into this world of fungi. Make sure you are 100% properly schooled and educated on what it is you're touching or possibly consuming. Having said that, there's some great picks. And I think, mushrooms and fungi, they're amazing. They're
Well,
just,
I
they
think
look
there's a
so
lot.
cool.
Yeah, they do look really neat. I think there's a lot to be learned too when it comes to stuff like that. That's one of the things that I want to get my kids into when we talk about homeschooling, we talk about schooling our children. There's also such a level of hands-on schooling when it comes to homesteading and having this type of life. Your kids may go to public school, your kids may go to a charter school, or may even do online, K-12, whatever it is, they can still learn when they get home. Now, I have the privilege, and I call it a privilege because it really is my privilege to be able to homeschool my kids and to be able to take them outside and to put their hands in the dirt and to be able to, do the little things where we can learn as we walk. One of those things that I'm not the greatest at, my sister is absolutely amazing at doing it, is to have a book, for instance, a fungi book or a, different plants of Texas book. She's got all these different books. And look, I'm the one that's going to buy the books, and the books sit there and I'm like, the kids are like, hey, well, what is that, Mom? And I'm like, I don't know, get the book or get your plant app, whatever it is. And I pull things out and we look at the time. I cannot remember. I honestly, again, melon plant, zucchini plant, I don't know, pumpkin, I don't know what those leaves mean. There's too much information there for me to constantly learn. But there are so many great resources that you can learn if you take the book or you take some classes. And if you truly have a desire, see, I think that's my problem is I have no desire to really care about those leaves. But if you have that desire and you want to learn about the fungus or whatever it is, they have books, they have apps on your phone, they have so many things you can look at and use as your resource. And I encourage people to do that type of stuff, to be able to get those apps, get those books and do that. And, honestly, it's awesome when you homeschool or when you teach your kids and you're constantly learning on your farm or in your homestead, because you don't have to just be home all the time. You can, you can go to public school and still come home and continue to learn, get your hands in the dirt or go for a walk and find all those little plants out there. It's important to do those things, but there's some great resources out there, not just this book, this group, but there's wonderful groups that are expert groups as well as online YouTube classes, all kinds of stuff. So find a reputable resource and go there and really learn that way. That's what I would encourage you anyway.
Reputable is key. Reputable.
Yes. Yep.
I will share with you, I have a family member who believes themselves to be highly educated. And a lot of people listen to this individual. And they came over to our home one day when we were renting a little home before we got the farm. And he's like, oh, you've got mint growing on the side of your house.
Oh, no.
So great. And he's walking around, he's eating it. And he's like, oh, you could put this in teas, you could do all this stuff. And then it's like, that's catnip. Okay, it's in the mint family, but you're walking around eating catnip, telling everybody that we're going to have some really great mint tea, and you're walking around chewing on a big old twig of catnip. And
fantastic.
Yeehaw.
Yeehaw. You have to know reputable is absolutely right. So, we're going to share one more time the information that we have about what you could put in your garden to have a really beautiful garden that's going to thrive, and that's Kelzyme. So let's throw it on over to Kelzyme for a moment.
With gardening season in full bloom, Kelzyme certified organic products are just what your garden needs.
From fertilizing your orchards to feeding your soil, Kelzyme's calcium-based fertilizer gives your plants the essential minerals they need to thrive.
Applying Kelzyme to agricultural soils and waters has been proven to increase plant and crop yields while making vegetables and grains healthier and more nutritious.
In addition, Kelzyme can help restore the nutrient balance in animals when they're fed plants grown using Kelzyme in both soil and water.
To check out all of Kelzyme's organic products, visit kelzyme.com and use our promo code HeyBale for 10% off of your purchase.
You know, we cannot promote Calzyme enough. All three of us have used it in our garden with absolutely fantastic results. We want to share that opportunity with you too. So stick around, because at the end of our show today, we're going to be having a giveaway. Calzyme has been kind enough to offer some sample packets that will be sent directly to our winner. So stick around. We're going to have this really great giveaway, and we want you to experience Calzyme as well. We think you're going to love it as much as we do. So what are we doing next, Casey?
You know, I think it's time for you to do it for the last time for this episode.
What am I going to do with the rest of my day?
I don't know.
Okay, so this comment is from Poppy Good, I believe. There you go, Poppy Good. Now, she reposted something from, it was called Heavenly Recipes. And these, the comment was, these are not pickled eggs. They're homegrown, unwashed eggs stored in lime water. And then there was an entire explanation of exactly what this is and how this works. And I thought it was very informative. And I applaud Poppy for reposting this. People repost these type of things all the time in different groups. And if you haven't done this, I would say, take a look, because this is something that if you are looking for a way to store your eggs, that you home grow. Now, remember, these are not for store-bought eggs. Store-bought eggs are not, the bloom is already gone. And so I think this is awesome that she reposted this for people that do have their own chickens or ducks or any animals that are laying eggs, actually. And I think it's great that she reposted so we could share this idea and this topic. I've done this before. My experience is to do it in smaller glass jars like she's got right there. And they're not small, actually. They're huge. They're like big pickle jars. But you can see that you can put them in a lot of different size containers. And I think actually the far left over there, it looks like a iced tea pitcher maybe with over to the far left on that side. If you look all the way on the far left, Casey, zoom in. It looks like right there where look at the red top. The one looks like an iced tea pitcher almost, where she's got the eggs in there. And I'm like, hey, you got to use what you got to use, right?
She's making use of all of her Rubbermaid.
Well, because if you think about it, I mean, look at it, 115 eggs, and she's put the date on it. She knows which one to use first. She knows what her goal is to keep all these eggs. And I think that's amazing. I love the fact that Poppy shared this idea so that if you have your own animals, your own, chickens or ducks or whatever it is, I think that's awesome. And if you don't, then you can always find a farmer that, raises their own. And if you are going to do that, though, make sure they don't wash them first. Make sure you get them unwashed, and they have to be clean. If they're not clean and they're not unwashed, don't do this. And when I say clean, I mean clean. It's very hard to do with duck eggs because duck eggs always aren't the cleanest because they're waterfowl. They tend to be damp sometimes when they lay their eggs. They're usually a little bit dirtier. I have successfully done this with duck eggs. I currently have a big glass of water glassed duck eggs up there, and they work great. I don't do them in really large containers because if you do them in 5-gallon buckets, sometimes the weight of all the eggs on the top will break the ones on the bottom, and that is a bad deal. Yeah. Now, I will say, though, that I had them in a pickle jar like this before. Earlier this past year, I busted into a couple of, maybe I shouldn't say busted into it, but I cracked the seal on my jar, and I was pulling some out, and I noticed, because it's a glass jar and I can see through, I noticed that there was a couple on the bottom. There were 2 of them with cracks in it. And I started to have some, I could see they were starting to go rotten. So I immediately pulled the jar out. I was kind of upset about it. And I pulled the top layer out, and they were still good. And I literally went through the entire jar, and out of, I want to say like 28 eggs, I think I got 12 eggs out of there, or 14 eggs. I got about half that were still good. And I was so happy because not all is lost. You just need to take time and float them and then test them out and whatever you need to do. But I was able to salvage from that. But this is a great way to store eggs long-term. And I've stored mine for about a year safely. And they still taste great. Everybody's there are a few people giving their opinions about how they taste later. They're still good for baking. In my experience, they're still good for scrambling. And depending on how old the eggs are, they're still good for frying in my experience. Now, I wouldn't fry up a 1-year-old egg, but I have fried up a 6-month-old egg. So it really is about preference and your taste buds and what you like the taste of. But this is such a great way to store your eggs if you're looking for some sort of long-term storage that's not pickled.
Right.
It's definitely
hard
not
boiled.
pickled.
And
Alicia,
I
have you done water
I
glassing?
have. I've water glassed eggs, and one thing I want to piggyback off of what Monica said is if you don't have your own eggs, and you have a farmer nearby that will have some eggs for you, you have to make sure they're fresh, fresh. Like, don't get week old eggs from the farmer. You need to have them the day of, or maybe the next day. You want to get them going as quickly as you can into your solution. How fresh do they need to be water glass? Fresh. I would say within 24 hours. I found the ones that I water glass that were super fresh did great. The ones that were a couple days old, 2, 3 days old, was like, meh, not so great. The other thing that I think is really important too is yes, they're great for baking. Um, you're going to find that your whites are a little runnier in your water glassed eggs once they've been in their solution for a while. It's not that anything has compromised the egg. It's just because it becomes an older egg, even though it's well preserved. The one thing I really want to focus on is because I've seen this particular post so many times in other groups that I am a member of in Facebook land. And everybody wants to know, how much of the lime do I use? And people say, oh, put in a third a cup or put in this or put in that. No, you need to weigh it. It has to be a specific
Yes, I'm glad you're saying this,
balance.
Alicia. Yes.
You need to have a certain amount of water with a certain amount weighed lime. You don't want to just measure it out into a measuring cup. You have to have a food grade scale, tear it out with whatever you're going to use to put your lime in before you add it into your water. And then you have to have, and forgive me, I don't know it right off the top of my head because it's been a little while since I've done it, but you have to have a specific amount by weight that you add per quart or gallon of water. So it's very, very important. And it's important to make sure that you don't have any cracked eggs. You could do it with less than 15 eggs a day because you don't have to do a gallon jar. You can do quart jars, and you can put, 6 eggs in your lime water and put it in your pantry. The other thing is too is you want to keep it in a nice, cool, dry spot. Don't leave it out on the counter where it's going to get sunlight. You want it nice and dark and where it's not going to be disturbed because you don't want the eggs to get jostled and cracked because then you do have a smelling mess. So I've had success with this. You want to make sure that the when you put your eggs into the jar, you want to do your best. Of course, it's difficult because they're oblong and they're wobbly, but you want to try to get that air sac that's on the blunt end of your egg. You kind of want that up towards the top. And the reason being is over time, that air is going to travel through the egg to get to the other end. So if you have it stored upside down and your air sac's on the bottom, it's just going to try to work its way up through the egg, and then your yolk might get pushed to the side. Then when you crack your egg open, your yolk is stuck to the shell. So little things, but it's a valid way. Also, I did some of my eggs in mineral oil. I oiled my eggs and put them in my pantry, and they were fine after 9 months. However, if you're going to do that, make sure you store them in a styrofoam container because the cardboard egg container leached all the oil off of my eggs and they were compromised. So there are a lot of unique ways that you can put your eggs up so that you can have them for your family during the season when your chickens aren't laying. And this is just a really great option. Just know that it's a science. There are certain ways to do it. So as long as you follow that, you're doing okay.
So I will say it is 1 quart of water per 1 ounce of lime. I use pickling lime from the store when I do it. And this, you don't have to do 15 eggs at a time. You can do, so I have quite a few chickens and ducks. I don't mix my eggs. I do just my eggs. Chicken in one, just my duck in another. That's because I have allergies issues. But when I do this, just so you know, it's not a lot of work. It is not as hard as you think. Do your research, look it up, watch a couple videos on it, do a little bit of research, but it is not that hard. Once you do it a couple times, the scare comes out of it. Just like with a lot of things, I think it feels very overwhelming to look at all the things, but really in reality, it's 1 ounce of pickling lime to 1 quart of water. That's the standard base. Like, so you're going to definitely use more than 1 quart of water, but I, shake it up and then I add it to my big jar, but I actually add eggs as the days go on. So if you only get 5 eggs in one day, you can still use a big jar. Fill your jar up with the water. You may have to dump some of that water out now, but later on. But I would say you only fill up above your eggs and then you continue to add as it goes on. But I add to my jar. Like I can fill half a jar and then I let it sit. And then the next day I'll continue to add to it. So it's not completely filled until I'm done. But I do add eggs to it and I've not had a problem with that. You just have to add slowly and you do put your hand in that lime water and it can kind of dry your hands out a little bit. But I do add as my eggs come in. So that's one thing. But I definitely will say, don't make it harder than it needs to be. Take it simple, take simple steps to achieve your goals. And if you're interested in water glassing eggs, go find some, videos, find some, do some research online and read up on it. And say it's not hard. It's just there's a lot of
not.
You just have to kind of pay attention to. So
you have to pay attention to the solution though. You have to pay attention to make sure you have the right amount of lime to water.
Yeah,
that's my only caveat.
Yeah, and that's according to all the ones and the ones I usually do anyway too. But all the other ones that I've looked up and just in general, it is the base of 1 quart of water to 1 ounce of the pickling lime. So I did put that in the Facebook or the YouTube one, so you could see.
Sounds
but
familiar.
Yeah, I mean, that's the ratio I use anyway, and that's what it says online. So based upon that, we have not a lot of people, but we have quite a few people, and I'm really excited because we have enough people in here to do a giveaway. And Kelzyme,
everyone in there.
Yeah, Kelzyme is doing this. So let's go ahead and put in the hashtag in Facebook or YouTube. Type in hashtag opinion because we value your opinion, but we also highly value the opinion of reputable sources. But we want you to.
Yes, we do.
We care about your opinions and we thank you for giving your opinions and your advice wherever you are, whether in Facebook world or whether you're in YouTube land. We value you. And so hashtag opinion, and you could be the one that wins some Kelzyme. I hope you are. Whoever you are out there. So even if you're in Facebook world, make sure you do it. If you're in the Beginner's Homestead Guide, go ahead and put in hashtag opinion. And if you're in YouTube, go ahead and put in hashtag opinion.
And while we're waiting for our entries to come in, I do want to go back just a little bit and touch on the water glassing of the eggs again. Like Monica said, when you take your eggs out, you can float them in a glass of water. If they float, they're no good. If they're at the bottom, even if they're standing up at the bottom of the glass, they're still good. You can use those. So when you take them out, do the float test. Also, I like to give them a little sniff test after you've cracked it into a separate. I always crack my eggs into a separate little dish before adding it to my dish, whatever I'm making.
Yes, absolutely.
Sniff test. If it smells foul, don't risk it. If it smells fine, you're great. When you're getting the eggs out of that lime solution, like Monica said, it can dry your hands out a little bit. So make sure you rinse your hands off well, rinse the egg well, and then dry your hands off, add a little lotion after you're all done and you'll be fine. But it is a solution. It's lime. So, but it really is a great way to preserve your eggs. So we've got 2 entries in. We're going to give it just a little bit more time, see if we can get a few more people interested in our.
And Alicia, that was a great point that you did. And, you can do that float kind of test with any of your eggs, really.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And always crack it into a separate jar because you don't want to risk it. Don't risk it for the biscuit. Okay. Smell it before you put it in there because you can toss it out, but you don't want to have to toss out your whole ingredients that you're making, whether it's the cakes or your brownies or scrambled eggs or whatever it is. Make sure that you are doing a smell test, a float test, just to make sure that it's good eggs that you're putting into your recipe.
Right. And Monica brings up a good point too, and one that I'm glad she did because I failed to mention it. And it's true. Use filtered water if you can. If you're using tap water that's got chlorine in it, no bueno. If you're using well water, like my well water is high in iron, you're going to end up with stinky, slimy water, and you're going to think this is wrong, and it's going to be completely compromised. Use some filter water if you can, because that's just the best way to get your eggs to be the best quality. If you're going to put the time and effort into getting the jar and the lime and collecting your clean eggs, make sure you've got good water. That's a key component.
All right, we're going to give it a couple more minutes. We see there's 4 entries now. Y'all go ahead and come in and do hashtag opinion, because we respect your opinion. We respect it the most when it is knowledgeable opinion that you are giving to other people. So this is a way to get a sample tester of Kelzyme. We always talk about it on our show, on our podcast. They are absolutely amazing. It's a calcium-based fertilizer from sea kelp. It is wonderful. We've all used it. Definitely put that hashtag opinion, because I'm about to pull that draw, so that you could possibly win this sample packet of the Kelzyme. You will not regret it.
You know, as a matter of fact, I had given a sample packet that I had from, I did get a few extra sample packets when Stina came in to visit last year. And so I had given one of those sample packets, actually 2 of them, one of each, to a friend of mine. And, you know, she texted me yesterday, and I haven't got back to her yet. She texted me yesterday, "Hey there, do you remember that sample of the fertilizer or whatever you gave me last year? And how do I get more of that?" So I was really excited because she used it on her tomatoes, and it was wonderful, and she loved it. And so she came back and asked how she could get more. So I'm excited that just a little bit of encouragement. And once you try it, I know that you're going to love it. Absolutely.
All righty. Last couple of seconds if you want to pop it in, because I'm about to press that draw button. All right. 5, 4, 3. Thank you, Alicia. And draw.
Oh, let's see who's going to win. It is Scott.
Scott.
Rambling with the brooms.
Congratulations, Scott. Make sure that if you are a winner, you are emailing us at roundthehaybale@gmail.com so we can get your address out to Kelzyme so they can send on your wonderful winnings to you to try out.
I love that. That's awesome. You're gonna absolutely love it, Scott. Because for real, Kelzyme is the best. It is really amazing.
And what do? We Kelzyme the crap out of our gardens, and we have great results.
And our trees, I mean, really, out of all the things. So it's been a huge thing for us over here anyway.
It's really great. Well, you know, that brings this episode of Hey Y'all Hey to an end. I'm so sad. No more do-to-dos for me today. But we want to thank you so much for joining us. We hope you'll join us again next week on Tuesday mornings at 9 a.m. is when we come to you. And don't forget that before that, on Mondays is when our current episode of our podcast comes out. So when that podcast drops on Monday, we're always going to be talking about the topics on Tuesday, just to kind of see how things panned out. And we kind of follow up on what our thoughts are about that podcast. And then we have those see, I had to get another one in there. Subscriber comment.
Knew she was going to.
You knew I was going to do it. You know I can't help it. I'm going to be doing it all day. I'm going to go out to my turkeys and go and then go blah, blah, blah. So, but join us back. We're a lot of fun. We like to keep things unscripted, and we like to learn with you. So make sure you come back. And until we see you again next week here on Hey Y'all Hey, we want to encourage you to don't give up any opportunity to learn something new. Take care of yourself, take care of each other, and have a blessed week. And we'll see you guys next time here round the hay bale. Hey, y'all, hey.
Hey, Monica, did you know it's now even easier to listen to Round the Hay Bale podcast?
What? Really? How easy?
That's right. All you have to do is say, Alexa, play Round the Hay Bale podcast.
Playing Round the Hay Bale podcast on Apple Music.
Ooh, we fancy.
Tune in to Round the Hay Bale every Monday at 9 a.m. Central.